Thank you, Alyssa, for reminding me that. So let me begin anew. My name is Ray Chang. I'm the program coordinator for the Morris County Historic Preservation Trust Fund. And this is the 2026 round of the funding review cycle for this program. And so we want to welcome you to the application workshop. Now, we want to acknowledge the Historic Preservation Trust Fund Review Board members who are present. This is a 11-member board appointed by the Morris County Commissioners with the task of making funding recommendations to the commissioners. So we do have a number who are present. Maybe if you want, you can wave when I call your name. We have Amy Curry. We have Larry Fast, our chairman. Martha Wells, Marty Kane, and yeah, I believe those are the ones present. So we work with a historic preservation consultant who reviews all of our application materials for conformance with the Secretary of Interior standards. So this is an important consultant for us. Her name is Amanda Gold with the Preservation Design Partnership based in Philadelphia. She is unable, I'm sorry, she's unable to be with us tonight, but she definitely is available if you have questions, technical questions on your application, on your project. So I'll definitely have her contact information also available. So is Joe with us? Okay, not yet. So also I want to introduce Alyssa Arcan, who is with our office of, this is the Office of Preservation and Planning, Planning and Preservation. I can't even say our name right. So she's helping me with the operation of the WebEx. So our plan tonight is I'll give about a 45-minute PowerPoint presentation, which is recorded, and the recording and the PowerPoint slides will be available tomorrow on our website, which is morriscountynj.gov. And this will also be shown to you at the end of the presentation. So in order for everyone to hear the presentation clearly, everyone will be muted for the duration of the PowerPoint. So I ask if you can jot down your questions or your thoughts, and then at the end, we all be unmuted, and so you can ask your questions or comments at that time. This year, we also have some breakout rooms that you can use for private discussions. For example, we have a few of the design firms represented tonight. I can see Annabelle, sorry, not Annabelle. Sorry, give me 1 minute here. Kurt Leisure from HMR Architects is here. Margaret Hick, excuse me, Margaret Hickey from Conley and Hickey is here. I'm just going to ask, I don't know if there are other professionals, but if I can ask Margaret and Kurt, can you put your contact information in the chat so that folks will know that you you're a source of professional firm that some people may want to talk to you, okay? But at least you had your contact information there, all right? So that applies to all professional firms represented here. So I may not have caught your name in the list, but if you represent a professional firm, please feel free to put your name and contact information in the chat. Okay. So everyone, if you just let Alyssa know, there's a chat option, and it should be on your bottom right of the screen that you can use to, you can open the chat panel and you're able to communicate with the participants in the meeting. So, okay, all right. So if you like to maybe schedule a session to talk with, for example, with a professional, you can send your chat to Alyssa, and at the end of our general session, Alyssa can assign you to a chat room, to a breakout room, to allow for that. Okay, so good. Thank you for Kurt and Margaret. I see you listed your contact information there. So for all the participants tonight, if you'd like to speak with them, feel free to send a chat to Alyssa. And she can arrange for you to speak with them privately in the chat room. But we don't want it to be a long session because our meeting is open to allow for the chat for the breakout rooms. So please limit your conversation to maybe 2 or 3 minutes, so that you can maybe just chat very quickly. All right. Okay. Alyssa, can you help me just unmute everyone, at least for now, just for a few seconds. Okay, just unmute everyone. All right.
Okay, let me get to that panel. Okay, so I made it so that attendees can unmute themselves.
Okay, thank you. So everyone, before I start the presentation, I just want to see if there's any general comment or questions at this point. Nothing? Okay, all right, Alyssa, please put everybody back on mute, and we'll begin our PowerPoint.
Okay, good to go, Ray.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to share. More than 20 years ago, when the Morris County voters approved a referendum in November 2002, authorizing the county commissioners to permit historic preservation funding under the Open Space Trust Fund, as allowed by state law. And between 1/8 and 1/4 cent of the existing tax for open space and farmland preservation trust fund was to be used for preservation and acquisition of historic properties, structures, facilities, sites, areas, or objects. So for more than 20 years, the county commissioners have supported the HP program at the maximum of 1/4 cent. Okay, so a funding summary for the past 23 rounds that we've had. We received 701 applications requesting for 83 million, 56 million awarded through 579 grants, to 136 historic sites located in 35 of the 39 towns in Morris County. 315 construction grants awarded with a median amount of $135,000 and 264 non-construction grants. And these are plans and reports. They were awarded with a median amount of $22,000 plus. So for this year, 2026, we have about $6 million available for the Historic Preservation Trust Fund. So this is a distribution of the 136 sites or resources that have been funded. You can see it shows more or less a concentration of sites in urban areas such as Morristown and Boonton, and also along transportation corridors. Also the Morris Canal as it winds its way through Morris County. All right, there are three important eligibility requirements for this program. And the first deals with the applicant eligibility. There are only three entities that are eligible to apply. Municipal governments within Morris County, and there are 39 of them. Morris County government, as well as charitable conservancies. And these are nonprofit groups that are exempt from federal income tax under 501c3, and whose purpose includes historic preservation of historic properties, structures, facilities, sites, areas, or objects, or the acquisition of such properties, such structures, facilities, sites, areas, or objects for historic preservation purposes. So last year, we resumed consideration of applications for historic structures owned by religious institutions after we have prohibited them from applying for the past 7 years. And that was from a 2018 New Jersey Supreme Court decision. But in November 2024, a federal court judge issued a preliminary ruling that the exclusion of religious institutions violates the US Constitution. So that lawsuit was completed successfully, and religious institutions may continue to apply for historic preservation grants in the 2026 funding round. But religious institutions must qualify as a charitable conservancy. So it must be a nonprofit entity with that historic preservation purpose. So if you do not have that purpose, you can add that purpose to your IRS mission statement or your bylaws or your certificate of incorporation to qualify as an eligible applicant. Okay, the second eligibility requirement is regarding the property. So the property must be located within Morris County. It must be listed on the National or New Jersey Register of Historic Places, either individually or as a part of a historic district that's listed on the state register. And if you're not listed on either register, the property must be certified as eligible for listing by the State Historic Preservation Office, either as an individually listed site or as part of a historic district. Okay, if your property is not listed on the register, we will require a certification of eligibility letter or a state historic preservation officer opinion, or called a SHPO opinion. That must be included with the application. The certification of eligibility letters, they are issued by the State Historic Preservation Office, and they basically certify that your property is eligible for listing on the registers. So if you wish to apply to our program this year, but you do not have a COE, you can apply to the HPO now, the State Historic Preservation Office, because our application deadline is at the end of March. So you may still have enough time to get your COE letter, right, by the application deadline. The SHPO opinion is another state certification that the property is eligible for listing. And that was issued in response to a federally funded activity. Okay, the last eligibility factor is the activity that you're proposing. Plans and reports that I mentioned earlier as non-construction activities, these associated with the implementation of a historic preservation project are eligible. And these are grouped under the preservation planning application or the construction documents application. The register nominations, which is what you would need to provide towards having the state list your property, that is grouped under the preservation planning application. And then acquisition is an eligible activity, and that's it's under the preservation planning application. And lastly, construction activities such as stabilization, rehabilitation, restoration, and preservation. And these are all found under the construction application. Now these terms, these four particular terms, are defined under the Secretary of Interior standards, which I will just go into just in a little bit. All right, so religious institutions, they're a special group, but eligible activities include historic structure reports, preservation plans, assessment reports, and these are what we mentioned earlier as under the plans and reports of the non-construction. And then also the preparation of construction documents and completion of construction activities for the exterior building elements and the building structural and MEP systems, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. So this applies for religious institutions. Cemeteries can also be eligible if they are, and they must be, individually listed on or eligible for the New Jersey or National Register of Historic Places. And eligible activities include preparation of reports, assessments, studies that document the conditions of tombstones or other elements of the cemetery, and the preparation of construction documents and completion of construction activities for all historic cemetery elements. And that includes restoration of tombstones or grave markers. I do want to emphasize that the individual listing requirement for the cemeteries to qualify, it's not enough if your cemetery is associated with a listed religious property, for example. For example, you're part of a churchyard. The individual listing is a higher standard that you have to meet. So definitely be in touch with me if you have such a situation that you want to apply for something that's part of a cemetery, but it needs to be an individually listed one, all right, or with a COE of one. Yeah, we mentioned about the Secretary of Interior standards for the treatment of historic properties. This is the standard as published by the National Park Service, which all of our grant projects must conform. So all proposed activities must be in conformance with the standard. And this conformance review is done by our county consultant, which is approved by the State Historic Preservation Office. So the county has a memorandum of understanding with the state that allows the county to conduct these reviews, which are required to obtain project authorization under the New Jersey Register of Historic Places Act. So instead of sending all the grant projects to the state to review, the county actually conducts the reviews through our consultant. So who's approved by the state for all of our program reviews, including the application, the preservation plan, the construction documents, through to the completion of construction. Our consultant, Amanda Gold, again, is not with us tonight, but if you have questions about any reviews for conformance with the standards, I'll definitely have her contact information available for you. We want to encourage long-term facilities planning. It's a really critical part for any preservation project. And so a preservation planning document, such as a preservation plan, a historic structure report, a historic landscape report, conservation assessment report, these must be completed prior to requesting funding for preparation of construction documents or for construction. Now, this is, of course, I'm speaking in a general sense, that this is usually what projects would go through in their program application. So if you wonder what these preservation planning documents look like, all of the preservation planning documents that have been produced in the past for county-funded sites are available online on our website, and it can be accessed at this preservation planning documents link, which I know you have no access to now, but once we have our recording and the PPT slides, the PowerPoint slides, put on our website tomorrow, and when you review the slides, you're able to click the link. I want to use a flow chart just to illustrate our process. This is a very general flow chart, but it is very simplified. But I think it asks several important questions that potential applicants must ask. So basically, if you are an eligible applicant, the first question that you want to ask is whether or not your property is eligible. If it's not, then you will need to get a COE, as we explained earlier, from the state. And this is a process that's really out of our program. So you have to obtain that COE by yourself. Of course, you can also get help from perhaps a preservation firm, a professional firm. So that's also possible. But then if you're able to get that COE, your property will become eligible, right? And the next question you need to ask is whether or not you have a preservation plan, some type of preservation planning document, because it's very critical that you have this document to really begin even applying to our program. So if you don't have it, then you can come to it, you can apply to this program to prepare such a plan. And then, so once you have it, because the preservation plan will provide for your treatment philosophy, your set of recommendations as to your preservation needs of your resource. So once you have that in hand, you'll be in a good position to apply to us for construction documents. These are plans and these are the architectural drawings and specifications needed to go to a construction project. So you can also come to us to apply for that set of construction documents, and because those are actually required for a construction application that will come up afterwards. So and we'll talk a bit more about construction documents later. All right, so of course there's no guarantee for funding in any grant round, but if you have a preservation plan in place, the HP board is more likely to say yes, and be more favorable to your application for construction documents. If you have a set of construction documents in place, the board is more likely to say yes to your construction application for at least a partial grant, if not full funding, depending on availability. A typical timeline, if you are a new project entering our program, this is like a typical timeline, but it certainly doesn't apply for everyone. If you come in with a preservation plan application, then in early July is when the commissioners make the grant awards. So you would use the remainder of the year to prepare that plan, and then coming next year, 2027, you can apply and then hopefully receive a set of an award for construction documents, right, in July, and then the following year you will return to apply for the construction. Our review schedule for projects that receive funding to prepare preservation planning documents or construction documents. These two deadlines are very important, and they must be met if you desire to be considered for additional funds for that funding request year. So for example, if you received funding to prepare a preservation plan last year, then by January 7th, you have to submit the 75% documents. And by February 28th, you have to submit the 100% documents. So these are these only apply, right, to those grants that to prepare preservation planning or construction documents. All right. If you fail to meet the submittal dates, you will not be considered for additional funding during that grant year. And importantly, grant work may not start prior to the execution of grant agreements. The grant agreements are usually fully executed by the end of August or September. Yeah, I should say September, yeah. So you have to sort of consider it in your plans that you will not have access. I would say the earliest that you may have access to these grant funds is probably October, early October, right? Okay. So all applicants that seek funding for professional services, and these may be the services from an architect, engineer, archaeologist, some it could be a professional, right, that can help you with your preservation project. If you have such professional services in your application, or you're proposing construction activities that require these services, you must complete the professional services checklist in the program portal. And you see this program portal is something that's new for this year. This is a new application process that we are asking all the applicants to use the portal to submit your applications. So I'll go into that a little bit. Okay. For preservation plans and construction documents, draft documents must be at least 50% complete before you submit to the county for review and funding reimbursement. We used to get the 10%, 15% documents. There's no way that our consultant can review that document. So they have to be at least 50%. And in many cases, they're at 75%. As you saw in the deadlines just now, that's the 75% is usually the first time that we see your draft document. If you have a project for which the construction documents were prepared without our funding, so perhaps you have another architect do another set of drawings outside of our program. Then you can submit your construction documents for preliminary review prior to the application deadline, and you also have the option to submit those construction documents with your construction grant application through the portal. But importantly, you are strongly suggested to do your preliminary review before the application deadline, because once they're submitted, let's say you submit your CDs, the construction documents, along with your application, but our consultant find that your drawings are lacking, and you may not have an opportunity to make it up. So in that case, we'll have to refuse. Your application will not be considered. So it's important and strongly suggested that if you have any drawings or specs that are prepared outside the program and you want to be considered, then send it in for a preliminary review. Okay. Word on the construction documents. We want to emphasize that the full construction documents, they must be submitted for all projects with an anticipated construction cost of over $50,000. And a complete set of construction documents provides a comprehensive, fully coordinated set of detailed plans, elevations, sections, and details sufficient to accurately and completely describe the proposed scope of construction work. In addition to detailed construction specifications, institute standard 16-part or 50-part specifications. And the coordinated drawings and specs should allow the contractor to determine a guaranteed maximum price and obtain necessary permits to construct the project. I read this every year, all right, during the workshop, because it's a very important part of the program. There are other philosophies out there for people when they approach preservation projects, and but it's important that in this program we place a lot of emphasis on construction documents, and because this is really the meat of the program. So we want to emphasize that. I just want to quickly illustrate 3 projects that have received funding, just to show you what type of activities have been funded. So just for your reference, the J. Smith Richardson History House is a second empire residence, which is part of a unique tribal cottage in the Mount Tabor community. in the township of Parsippany Troy Hills Township. The building is a contributing resource within the listed Mount Tabor Historic District. Previous grants received by the Mount Tabor Historical Society, which owns the house, they help complete a preservation plan, structural repairs, electrical upgrades, interior finishes, HVAC system, exterior rehabilitation, including foundation repair and replacement of slate roof. This is the Little Red Schoolhouse in the borough of Florham Park. Constructed in 1866, the Little Red Schoolhouse served as the area's only school until 1914. Owned by the borough of Florham Park, it's listed on the state registers and presents and represents a classic American one-room schoolhouse. So funding have included a preservation plan in 2008, a structural lintel to prevent collapse of unsupported brickwork, roof restoration, interior, exterior restoration, including finished carpentry repairs, restoration and painting of plaster wall finishes, repair of the basement floor, and upgrade of electrical systems. And the Orchard Street Cemetery Gatehouse in Dover. The circa 1875 gatehouse was built by the Dover Cemetery Association and sited near the entrance of the Orchard Street Cemetery. It was also known as the receiving house and is a rare example of the Carpenter Gothic style in Dover. The building is certified eligible for individual listing in the historic registers, and in fact is expected to be on the agenda of the State Review Board soon. So we might be likely seeing a listing of this property very soon. Two 2024 grants completed a preservation plan and a register nomination. A grant last year was for exterior restoration. A few words about ownership. Owner consent is required for all applications except for an acquisition. For preservation planning or construction document grants, if the applicant is not the owner or lessee with a 20-year unexpired lease term, then the applicant must prove significant involvement with the property's preservation. For construction grants, if the applicant is not the owner, the applicant must have lease with a 20-year unexpired lease term from the date of application. All properties to be acquired must be purchased in fee simple, and purchasing entity must have full control of the land. Just to give you a quick example, Madison Masonic Lodge in Madison, they are not a 501c3 entity. When they try to apply, so the borough of Madison, showing significant involvement with the property's preservation, they stepped in as the applicant and received a 2020 grant to prepare construction documents. 2 years later, the borough applied for and received a construction grant because the borough had a 20-year lease to use the lodge as a senior center. And then in 2024, the borough received an acquisition grant after closing on the property. So our rules allow acquisition applications to be filed within a year of a historic property's closing. Okay? So you can actually close on a historic property. And then as long as you're within 1 year, you can apply to us for 50% of the acquisition cost. What are ineligible activities in our program? Reconstruction, according to the standards, administrative or operational cost of the agency, any routine or ongoing maintenance work, such as grounds maintenance, painting, or painting or cleaning that is not part of a comprehensive project. Also, interpretive activities, such as displays or signs, are not eligible. So I mentioned the routine maintenance work. So if you come in with a exterior painting project, it will not be considered because that's maintenance. But if that can be combined into a more comprehensive project, for example, you restore your facade, something else that includes painting, then that's acceptable. Matching requirements for our program. Construction projects require 80%. 80% is something of the project cost will be paid by the trust fund, and the applicants come up with a 20% match. Acquisition, I mentioned a little earlier, 50% we will pay, and applicants pay the 50% match. For preservation, planning, and construction documents applications, if it's greater than $5,000, we will pay 80% while the applicant pays 20% match. If it's less than or equal to $5,000, we pay the whole thing. You don't have to pay any match. Applicants must show evidence of matching funds in hand or demonstrate clearly the ability to match the grant requested. Now, many of our applicants also work with the New Jersey Historic Trust to gain their match funding, and but because they have a different schedule than ours, I think the state grant awards are 2 or 3 months after the county awards. So if you apply to the state in the same year, right, to get your match funds, to get your matching funds during the same year, you will need solid backup plans. Okay, we will need either a guarantee from the town or other sources that you'll have that match in hand. All right. We have an easement requirement. A 30-year term easement with the County of Morris is required for construction grants that are over $50,000, and that's applied cumulatively over any number of funding cycles. So, for example, you can receive a $40,000 grant 1 year, and then, but you will not require an easement at that point. But in the next year or in the following year, you receive a $20,000 grant, construction grant. So that you will surpass that threshold of 50,000, and you will have an easement put on. A perpetual easement is required for all acquisition projects at the time of funding. Easements are not required for non-construction projects that result in planned development. Okay. I should explain that the easement is a deed restriction for long-term protection of the county's investment by limiting changes in use or appearance and preventing demolition. So the easement will allow the county to have a chance to input if you have future proposals that may impact the protected features or the funded items. For example, if we funded some facade work, now you want to do work on the structure or something that's holding up the facade. And so we'll get a chance to input on your plans. Any unexpended balance will be canceled and at the end of your project and returned to the trust fund to be made available for the next HP grant round. We have grant extensions available for projects that meet them. Initial extensions cannot exceed 2 years, and a second extension not to exceed 1 year is possible if more than 50% of the work is complete, and you can also prove that the circumstances were beyond your control. All extensions are reviewed by the HP Review Board. I'm sorry. Okay. Our review schedule for this year. We have a declaration of intent that's due on February 27th, which is about a month from now. We have our application deadline on March 27th, which is the last Friday in March. During the months of May and June is when our review board will make site visits to applicant sites. And also we ask you to come in, potential applicants to come in before the review board to make a presentation. June 24th is the date when the review board is scheduled to make the funding recommendations to the commissioners. And by July 8th is when the county commissioners make their grant awards. All right. So this year we have a we have a new process in that we have a online program portal that we are asking everyone to submit your application materials. Okay? So it is online, and the time that you submit the application through the portal will be considered the official time of submission of your application. If you submit more than one application, please also prioritize each of your application in the portal. And I'm just going to quickly show you, in order to facilitate all the potential applicants to use the portal, we'll have a special training session for applicants on next Wednesday, February 4th. Okay? So that information plus the link to the training is available on our website. Okay, so I'll also make that available to you at the end of the presentation. But let me just quickly show you. Okay, all right. I'm going to stop this PowerPoint. Do I want to do that? Let me see. Hold on for 1 second. Yeah, let me stop this, and let me just 1 second. Yeah, I'll stop this. The recording will still go on, but I'm going to share another window. That way I think this is the only way I can show you. Okay. All right. I'm going to stop the PowerPoint share, and I will share this screen. Okay. I believe you can see this. Okay. So the portal itself has a web address, which is available on our website. But what I'm showing you now is only it's another area. Okay, this is like a user, almost like a user testing area, but it's really the same thing that you will experience. So I'm going to show you this. So the address that you see here is really not the official web address. So, but when you click on that link, it will take you to this screen, and you can log in at this point. Okay. Okay. I am. So I'm logging in as a agency admin. Okay, the agency admins are if you are the owner or the manager of of your historic site, and you're the one making the application, then you'll likely be the agency admin. Okay, so just know that the process I'm going through now is 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 an agency admin, right? Okay, so there's an authenticator thing you have to go through. So I have to explain this to all the ones. There are many of you have already gone through this. However, we are adding this to the portal. So it's something that I'm afraid all of you will have to go through. Okay, it's an authenticator that you have to click, right? Because it gives you like a number that you have to put in. So I'm putting in that number now, and okay, so you are in. Okay, you are officially in the portal. If you can get to this page, you have resolved more than half of the headaches of trying to get into the system. So this is the page, it's the dashboard that you can land on. Notice that I am here in as a agency admin. Okay, I'm here as an agency admin, and um, you see some stats from our trust fund program. So there are a couple of things on the left. I just want to show you really quickly where we'll go into the completing your declaration of intent and all, because that's all done in here. Okay, so under the applications, you can choose. Okay, and yes, I want to say congratulations, Sue Schmidt. I'm using Ayers Farm as an example because you have been so successful in receiving grants in the past. I just want to use you as a illustration. But what happens is you will see really historically everything that has been submitted, and all the way back to 2003. You see how early we go back to. But so at this point, you can get into, in fact, the data for each of these. But importantly is for you is this create historic application. And once you click that, you'll be asked what you want to create, right? So you need to have a knowledge of the proposed activity, right? So you know which application to use. Okay, so just for example here, I'm just going to click continue. Okay, you come to this declaration of intent page, and we'll get into during the training. We'll get into the filling up and completing these forms. But you do this, and then you submit, right? You submit this, and we'll approve. And once your declaration of intent is approved, once your declaration of intent is approved, you'll have. I'm just going to use this as an example. You'll have access. You see how this project has, the page has different tabs, right? The declaration of intent, the property, the roles, budget, scope of work. These are all is basically everything that's within our application forms. Okay, they have all been transferred to here. So So you'll use these tabs to put in your application. Okay. So, but that only happens, these are only open to you when your declaration of intent is approved. Okay. So we'll get into all that in the training. Okay. But I just want to show you this is what you face. All right. Okay. So I'm going to stop share and I'm going to go back. Sorry for this jumping back and forth, but I can get back. Are we back? Okay, good. Okay, all right. So we have a video requirement for all sites that have not provided a video before. So you must be new if you have to provide this. And 10-minute video in MP4 MOV format. You must include the historic significance, property setting, general views of the exterior and interior, areas specific to your grant request. There are many ways to produce this. Before we get into that, yeah, I'm sorry. There are many ways you can produce this video. One method is to use a PowerPoint. Start with a PowerPoint, okay? And so you can put in slides of your historic or modern photos of your site. And then you can voice over it, and you can save as an MP4 format. Well, that's one way of doing it. Okay? I just want to mention that even though you can use photographs, right, to be part of this video, we do want to see some video segment showing the current conditions. Okay, so you can use photos, but you definitely want to show with your video some current conditions. Okay. We will provide a link to OneDrive where you can submit your videos. Okay, so this is actually something that's outside the portal. Okay. And so the video must be submitted by the application deadline. Just be aware that if you are funded, if your application is successful, and the funded site videos will be incorporated into our HP story map, which we have on our website that illustrate all of the funded sites. As part of the application review, we mentioned we'll do site visits. These are 30-minute site visit with at least one review board member and county staff in the month of May. And for new sites, we'll have the entire board visit you. We ask that you have no more than 4 applicant representatives present. For final presentation in early June, it's a 15-minute presentation with the review board. Use a PowerPoint that must be submitted through a link that I'll provide to you 1 week before your final presentation date, and also no more than 4 applicant representatives present at this presentation. So even though our application materials will now be submitted through the portal, we still recommend that you name your files using this file naming convention here, because sometimes I receive these files that are just generated and sent through a printer, and I have no idea what those files are. So please help me to use these naming convention for your files. Okay. All right, we have come to the end. This is my contact information. my email, our website, where you can find additional program information, as well as the preservation planning documents link that we referred to earlier. Also a story map link where you can see all of our funded sites. Yeah, I believe that's all. I'm going to stop sharing. Thank you for your patience. It took me more than an hour. I apologize. It was designed to be about 40-minute slideshow, but because of I had to illustrate the portal, so I think it took more time. But anyway, thank you for your patience. I do want to mention again that I've asked the professionals who are represented here to put their contact information in the chat. So I see that Margaret Hickey from Conley and Hickey and Kurt Leisure from HMR Architects have their contact information there. If you are a professional firm, whether an architect, or engineer, or feel free to put your contact information in the chat so people can see. Now we want to open up for some questions. If I can ask Alyssa, can you just unmute everyone?
Yes, people can unmute themselves now.
Okay, all right. So now I know that some of you may have interest to speak to a consultant, perhaps individually, and we'll have our breakout rooms available at the end of our Q&A. All right. So if anybody has any general questions, I'm afraid we cannot answer your project-specific questions unless it has a general nature. Yeah, anybody has any questions that you want to ask at this point? Yeah, it's usually because each project site is different, and you are faced with a unique set of circumstances, issues. I am always available to call me or email me, and so I'm available to talk to you. Does Alyssa, are there anyone that wants to talk with the professionals individually?
No one put anything in the chat, but
Oh,
if they
okay.
do, I can set that up.
Okay. Yep. So, when our workshop was in person before, we had a lot of networking opportunities. You can just talk with anybody for as long as you want. But now it's more limited, obviously. But I do want to make that option available. So we do have capability to open the breakout rooms. So if anybody wants, feel free to chat Alyssa. But if anybody has any general questions, feel free to ask. How about our board members? Any comments maybe from our board members?
No particular comments, Ray. It's Larry Fast here from the board.
Yes.
But thanks for the presentation. And yeah, I would encourage any of the potential applicants to reach out directly to the office. Every project is unique. It has its own circumstances and changes and differences in ownership. And the only way to get right to the core question would be to go to Ray and Alyssa. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you, Larry. Did I hear somebody speaking? I didn't hear a question. Maybe I didn't hear right. If you want to ask something, feel free to unmute yourself. Okay. Yeah, I just want to mention again that our portal training session is next Wednesday, February 4th at 7 o'clock in the evening. There's no need to register for that. And the link, in fact, is the same as this meeting. So feel free to join us then, and we will go into the detail of filling up your declaration of intent. Okay. Wow. I must have done a thorough job. No questions. Okay. All right. Oh, okay. Let me see. Okay. I see some requests for chat room. I mean, not chat room, a breakout room. Alyssa, do you see that?
Yep, I'm gonna set that up now.
Okay, all right. Okay, so at this point, if there are no questions, I guess Lee, Alyssa, if you can stop the recording and we can, so anybody